All right, good. Hi. Morning, folks. Gonna get your attention here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to this morning's Public Affairs Forum. We're going to get just started right off here without a whole bunch of small talk. I'm going to introduce a man that needs no introduction. Our sheriff, Sheriff Ed Troyer.
You know, I've talked with you guys many times over the years, but I think this is the first time in this capacity. And well, okay, sure. Loud enough right now? Stand this close. So I've been the sheriff now for 2.5 years. And time kind of flies. We kind of got stuck, and I'm sure all of you did too, with COVID when it came around and kind of isolated us. When I ran for election, we were right in the middle of COVID. So I've done more Zoom meetings and Teams meetings in 2 years than I'll do in the totality of the rest of my life, I think. And now it's really nice to be able to see everybody in person. I've been with the Pierce. I actually used to work out here. I've been with the Pierce County Sheriff's Department now for 38 years. And 38 years. So when my term's up, it'll be 40 years. So I got 2 more years to go into the term. The Sheriff's Department the sheriff position runs on the presidential election. I know there's just a lot of challenges in law enforcement right now. I know we have the Gig Harbor Police Chief here. How are you guys doing on staffing? Are you down? Or are you the only people in the county that have a full agency? Yeah, so what's happened, I mean, with Chief Busey and myself, is the people that came on with this was a whole bunch of hiring going on at that time. They're all hitting retirement age. And what's really hard is recruiting right now, because to be frank with you, this job has changed so much, especially in the state of Washington. A lot of people don't want to do it anymore. What you'll hear is there's just so many tools that have been taken from us, as far as not just the pursuits, but the drug laws. And it's kind of chaos out there for all of us. Our call volumes are going up, but what we can do on the back end is going down. One of the things that the Sheriff's Department does is we also run the biggest hotel in Pierce County. And that big hotel, being the Pierce County Jail, is also full of 86% of the people in there have mental health and/or drug issues, and 93% of the people in our correctional facility are felons. So it used to be that facility was built for jail and not a prison, but it's turned into a prison. Inside of our correctional facility, I have 14 mental health workers and a supervisor. And then out in the field, we have mental health that we've incorporated into our patrol called co-responders. We have 9 of those and a supervisor. We've started a new program with MultiCare. That's a social services deputy position who works with 3 social service workers. So that puts us about 24 or 5 civilians that are either mental health pros, mental health experts in the facilities, or social workers from the county that we've embedded with our staff. So it's not that we're not doing anything about mental health, because that's most of our clientele now. Living out here across the bridge, we have a residency district that works out here. And I always call them a little bit rogue, because they've got the big bridge that divides them between everybody else, but they can take care of business out here. I mean, the deputies out here, Rusty Wilder works out there. They work really well with Gig Harbor Police, and Gig Harbor works well with us if we need to back up. And we don't have, it might not seem like it, because when you do have things happen out here, sometimes they're really big and dominate the news. But if you go back on the other side of the bridge, it's a nightly occurrence everywhere you go. We have in Raymond Hall right now, we have maybe 31 kids, and 15 of those are reprimanded to adult status for murder. They got murder charges pending. And twice in the last 6 months, they've taken over the facility. And we had to send a team in. I don't know if you saw this, it didn't hit much on the news, but they assaulted a couple workers and took over the facility and trashed the place, mostly over gang fighting. So we have that issue. These kids are 15 and 16, 17-year-olds, but they're committing big person crimes with weapons. They gang up in the facilities. So that's a whole nother challenge that we have, is dealing with juvenile crime. Majority of the shootings that you're hearing about on Mondays, and when you hear about over the weekends, majority of them are committed by juveniles, and majority of the victims are also juveniles. And so juvenile crime has exploded largely in Pierce County. What has all over the whole entire area. So we do a lot of dealing with juveniles, and we have, the courts have done a great job with over the years with trying to get kids mental health, diversion, a lot of other programs. But unfortunately, a lot of these kids are just growing up, and they're young adults, and they've been committing crimes for many years, and a lot of it's learned behavior from multi-generations down. So that's a big thing that we're trying to work on. And a good way of doing that is trying to get officers in the schools. So we have a school liaison program where we have deputies in the schools, and we pretty much have every school in Pierce County covered now. And we can start talking to kids when they're younger. The days of like drug education and DARE and all that are gone for these jobs. These jobs now really just focus on safety of the students, trying to hold kids accountable and making sure staff is safe. So we continue to ramp up those programs. One of the biggest issues we're facing in the Sheriff's Department is right now I have 42 openings for deputies. It was 60. It's 42 now. We're hiring about 7 to 10 a month. But unfortunately, like the chief just said, the 7 or 10 a month barely outputs the people that are retiring, because we're hitting the age now where everybody's got their 30, 35 years on. A lot of the laws have changed in the state to where, plus on top of it, the defund the police, the de-policing movement has made a lot of people pull the plug a little bit early. We have, since I've been on, we have hired 62 deputies, but we've lost 40 in retirements. And so we projected out over the next year, and I think it's going to slow down. And by the end of the year, we should gain by about 15 or 20 spots. And so we're all hurting a little bit when it comes to staffing, because the population in the county is not slowing down. I mean, we're at about 940,000 people in Pierce County right now. And if you go out and look at Eastern Pierce County, some of the builds are doing out there. There's, 8 to 10,000 residents going in these different places, Sahalee and some other places. So we're going to need to ramp up our staffing to take care of that. We, in the correctional facility, we are down 63 positions right now. And out of 320 correctional officers, we're 60 something in the hole. So the jail was built to hold 15 to 1,600 people, but by budget has been controlled to about 1,100. Right now, we average about 750. So there's a lot of room in the jail that's not being used because we can't staff it. In years past, we would have people that couldn't get on, say they wanted to come work for the Sheriff's Department or Gig Harbor PD, they're younger. We would tell them, go get some more life experience and do some other type of things. And then they would go to work for corrections, maybe work there for 3 or 4 years. Well, now they've skipped that step because there's so many law enforcement openings. They're going straight to it. So we're having a hard time filling correctional spots. We're hiring a lot of retired people, but retired people out of the military, and people have done other careers for 20 years, which is good on one hand, because they're filling spots, but bad because they're not going to be with us for 25, 30 years. They're going to stay 10 or 15, which we appreciate. We're promoting that, trying to bring people on at that level. We're doing everything we can. And here's my sales pitch. We are now hiring. It used to be you couldn't take the test until you're 21 years old. For corrections, you can now take the test at 19 years old. And we'll hire you at 19 years old. We've hired a couple. And we'll start you in rooms where you're not, until you learn to engage with people and you kind of grow into the job, and slowly move you into the actual correctional facility. But we are hiring people at 19 years old and testing and sending them to the academy. So if you have somebody in your basement at home on the couch, please send them my way. Or maybe that'll motivate them that you've warned them that they're coming there. So like I said, the correctional facility is the biggest mental health facility in Pierce County. The dynamics of running the jail right now are huge because of the type of population that we have in the jail. And I know it's frustrating for some of the small towns because they're not able to take people down and book them because we reach our numbers. And it is kind of two ways. It's a revolving door, in that sometimes when we get our numbers, we can't keep people, misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, property crimes, and felonies. We can't keep them booked. We can't keep them in the facility. So we'll bring them in, book them, and then release them. And then a lot of the serious crimes, we have this whole group of judges in Pierce County and commissioners that are just letting people out with no bail, that have shot people. And it's very frustrating for law enforcement to have these high-end criminals. Did you see the mess we had on the freeway where we lost one of our patrol cars in that fire? And some of these people have multiple felony warrants, 11 cases pending, and yet they're getting released with no bail to go back out, commit crime. One, you know where the most cars are stolen at Tacoma, Pierce County? If you draw a circle around a certain area, most of the cars are stolen in Tacoma, Pierce County are stolen within about 12 blocks of the jail. That way people can get a ride home. So, and we kind of made jokes about that. So we started looking at the numbers, turned out to be true. You know, we release people out of jail, steal a car. You know, majority, we used to have 5-6 years ago, we'd get about 200, 250 cars stolen a month in Tacoma, Pierce County. And then 2 years ago, it jumped to 500 or so cars a month. Now we're averaging 850 to 925 cars a month stolen in Tacoma, Pierce County. So the numbers have skyrocketed. And if you have a Hyundai or a couple other certain cars, they teach you on YouTube on how to steal them with jump sticks, and the kids are really smart at it. And so our car theft level has just gone through the roof. And if we find a stolen car and it takes off, we can't chase a stolen car. We're doing other things to try and get them stopped with via GPS trackers, flattening tires, and doing other things to try and get cars back, because the majority of these times we find a lot of these cars that drive them through store windows and then have a second stolen car after they loot the store to leave, but they'll abandon the car, the one that they use as a tool to bust through things. Are you guys getting a stolen car problem out here too? Well, that would be yes. Yeah, 156% up. And we don't see it going down very soon. And here's why. It's because the majority of the people that are stealing cars, we literally have brought people home that we've caught in stolen cars when they're juveniles. Majority of cars are being stolen by juveniles. Majority of the crime is being committed out there is by juveniles. I don't believe they're being held accountable. We were just talking. There's a mindset out there of certain politicians and people in the system that believe anybody under 18 is not capable of committing a crime because they're not mature enough to make those type of decisions. But there's a whole lot of other things at 12, 13 they can make decisions for that mom and dad can't get in the way. So it's an interesting dynamics when you're getting in the city now. And we used to be, Pierce County. You would think the county, you live in the county. But Pierce County now, if any of you haven't been out Spanaway, the Mountain Highway to Graham, remember going to Graham, you go down Meridian, and then it'd be farmland forever. Now it's just nothing but city all the way to Graham. And so the population's exploding all the way out there. And so it causes us a lot of business out there. As you know, I've been to DC. I was going to come to your last meeting, but I was back in DC because we put 2 of our guys' names on the wall that died in the line of duty. And then this year or last year, we put them on this year. And then the year before, we had another one. So we put 3 of our own people's names on the wall in DC that have died in the line of duty. And I now have 6 total since I've been on and been back to DC 5 times to do that. So this isn't really a good recruiting tool when I talk about that, but we still have a lot of people that are wanting to step up and do law enforcement. We have a lot of people that are testing, and as you know, our testing process is very rigorous. And one of the things that we have not done is lower our standards. So if we get 25 people to apply, out of every 25, we're lucky by the end to have 1 or 2 standing that actually go to the academy that we hire. So we keep our standards high. And another thing that we were able to do is I have a lot of people from the Seattle Police Department, King County Sheriff's Department, Fish and Wildlife, and the State Patrol that have lateral and transferred over to our department. And the reason being is our county executive and myself, we're not anti-vaxxers, but we don't mandate it. Or more freedom of choice. And a lot of other departments like Inslee in the state fired people, and we hired them people. So that represents about 20 to 25 people that we've got in our department that have lateraled over in the last 2 years. And what was interesting is we were a little worried when the state in King County in Seattle said, okay, you can have your jobs back now. COVID's over. We're sorry we fired you. We only lost one person went back, and nobody else is going back. Everybody's staying with the department, Pierce County, because they love the area. They love the way we work in our department. And we're under administrated. Most departments will have one sergeant for 7 or 8 people. We have one sergeant for about 17 people. So we need people that can work on their own. Sometimes their backups a long ways away, because we are still pretty rural when we get up to Mount Rainier and the east side of Pierce County and the Long Branch Peninsula. I was talking here. I always say the resident deputies out across the bridge here are a little bit rogue, but we like that. We mean that in a good way. They take care of themselves. They don't cause us grief. We don't get in trouble. They take care of business out here. For as many people there, I think you guys out here now are just over 70,000 people, 72,000 when you get across the bridge for the rest of Pierce County. And I have 18 people, and whatever the size of Gig Harbor is. And that's all you guys have out here. So I'm glad that we work together and we're able to get stuff done out here. And what we're starting to realize, and I'm sure the same as with Gig Harbor, is when we do have problems, gangs of burglars or thieves and people, they're people that unbelievably know how to cross the county line from the other county. They don't come across the bridge. The bridge is the great divider still. The bridge really stops a lot of people from coming out here and people causing problems coming across the bridge. Plus, I think they picked up pretty quick that, you know, we have your license plate when you're in a stolen car and different ways of reasons not to come across a bridge. And the toll, I suppose that keeps them on the other side too. But a lot of the times the problems will come from outside Pierce County in that way, because obviously burglars and thieves and criminals, boundaries and jurisdictions mean nothing to them. And that's why we all got to work together. Are you seeing a lot of your problems coming from the other counties? Yeah, well, I just don't want to call them out, but we all know what county's next to us. Yeah, so it's for people in Kitsap, this is a target rich environment if you live close to the line. So there's a lot more cars, a lot more houses, a lot nicer stuff here. And so it attracts people. So we're aware of it, our resident deputies, and we know who the common players are, the criminals are, and the burglary rings, and they do a good job out here rounding them up and trying to make sure that they know that if they come into Pierce County, that they're going to get a lot more attention than if they don't. It's kind of our way of community policing, because, you know, we're too rural to be riding bikes around, you know, shopping malls. We don't have the big shopping malls. We don't have the big urban areas. We're just too spread out. In fact, we're only down to 2 motorcycles left on our department in our traffic unit, and only one person rides them, and that's a deputy who has 39 years on, Travis Hoffman, and he's the last guy with his bike, and we just let him keep it at home in his garage because we have nowhere to put it. And so if you ever see a sheriff's motorcycle in a parade or anywhere, it's him, because that's the only guy we got, you know. So Travis is the last remaining that. And so we're going to be really close to not having motorcycles anymore, but we still do have a robust traffic unit. We really entered to a drone program. I have 6 or 7 licensed drone flyers that help in search and rescue, or if people are in the bushes or woods, and that technology has come so far that we can get up and map crime scenes and do things really fast with drones. I learned this on a search and rescue mission about 3 or 4 years ago, right before I was sheriff, when I was doing the media job. We went out, and there was a senior that walked away, and he was lost. And we were all out, about 15 of us. Here come the search and rescue volunteers, and here come the dogs. And a 14-year-old kid with a drone playing with it, put it up in the air and flew it, and within 5 minutes found the guy walking about a mile away. You know, so so we've really incorporated those tools into what we're doing these days, and it's really between the life alerts and between GPS tracking devices and Apple AirTags, it's really great. In drones, we have not had walkways or people roam off with Alzheimer's or cars or anything in that in quite a while. And we used to get them a lot. And now, so luckily with some of the new technologies, it's even some of our search and rescue volunteers are there's not a lot for us to do anymore. The new technologies and everything you guys have and the people that are up hiking and the equipment they have, it's a lot easier finding them than finding them 4 or 5 days later deceased or something, you know, so it's great. Some of the other things that we have going on, like I said, we have a hiring. We're really trying to hire right now. We have a $10,000 hiring bonus. If you want to come on hiring, we have a $10,000 retention bonus. So if you stay every 6 months, you're getting a $5,000 bonus for each 6 months you stay. We're in that process. If somebody refers somebody, any county employee, if a county employee finds somebody and puts them through our testing, we hire them, that county employee gets a $5,000 recruiting bonus. So if you know somebody, call a county employee, have them refer them, then you can split the money. You know, doesn't matter how we get it out as long as we can get some people. We asked me earlier about how we're doing with the military. We work really well with the military right now. And 1/3 of my department is either military background or active reserves. We support our people going to military, or if they ever get activated on reserves to go for training and do all that, we're going to continue to do that. So we're doing it. We're doing good. We're building. We're trying not to get too frustrated with the state laws and the lack of tools and everything that they come at us to try and take away. But I always tell our people to go be creative, and do what you can, use the tools you can, catch the people that are causing problems, put them in jail. And if the commissioners or the prosecutor doesn't prosecute, then that's not your problem. That's theirs. Let us take care of it on the back end on that way. So you will not hear a deputy saying, well, I'm not going to take him to jail because we're not going to do anything anyways. We don't want our people saying that. We want our people out taking care of business. You hired what you did to hire, and we'll have your back as long as you're making good decisions and trying. So we send our people out to conquer, and so feel free, if you see deputies and you have a problem, talk to them and they'll do what they can. I know it's going to be frustrating sometimes when you see something happening and it looks like we're not doing anything, but we are booking them. We are taking their photographs. We are taking their pictures. It's just really frustrating on the back end for everybody, the lack of accountability. And that's something that we have to deal with politicians and others. Just remember, when you vote for county council, you know, I'm not advocating anything, but you know, there's two parties, and there's one party that believes in just letting everybody go and one that doesn't. So, you know, pick it up, pick which one you want to choose, pick your side, and we'll see what happens. Also, if anybody's got any questions.
Okay.
I know there'd be some.
Raise your hand. You need to use the microphone just because if you don't, the people online won't hear you. So let's start with Steve.
Ed, you mentioned the increase in stolen cars. Some years ago, I saw a automobile vehicle, a car taser. Could you, could an officer fire a taser that would disarm the electronics of it?
That's in a movie, but I wish, but no, that doesn't exist. Yeah, that doesn't exist. But there are some tools. We sent a team down to Phoenix on tracking, and they've got a good program how to stop vehicles without people getting hurt in a non-pursuit world. And we do have some devices, and we have some ways that you might hear about this summer. We're kind of keeping it under wraps right now because we don't want them to know. But we have a way of installing GPS devices on stolen cars as we're going down the road, and they don't know it. Yeah. Well, now you get a ride home if you're a juvenile. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Oh.
It seems as though recruitment is a huge challenge for you. Where do you recruit in your lives?
Boy, we go all over to recruit. I mean, it's amazing where you'll find people. We recruit at job fairs. They just had a construction fair out at the Pelt Fairgrounds where people could go operate bulldozers and all that. So we went and set a booth up out there to try and recruit people there. The Pelt Fairs, the schools, the colleges, the military bases. We anywhere we can go to try and recruit, we'll go and recruit. And that's same with the incentives and the bonuses. But if you had grandkids and kids and they wanted to enter law enforcement, you don't need to raise your hand or anything. And they wanted to go in law enforcement right now and they're 22, 3 or 4, would you support them? There's a lot of parents and a lot of people are saying this probably isn't a good profession anymore. And so we get people like that when we go recruiting. They're like, oh yeah, no way my mom and dad will let me do that, or my family doesn't want me to do it. We've had people that have come on for a few months who says this just isn't going to work with my wife. It's just not the same job that it was. So that's a hard thing to get past too, is, you know, families. And, you know, let's face it, also, there are a lot of jobs out there right now. There's a lot of ways to go in your career. And if you're choosing a career right now, I know that when Chief Busey and I came on, 500 people would test for 3 or 4 jobs. And, you know, you'd go through all 500 people. And to get 3 or 4, now we have probably 30 or 40 that test every 3 months, and we get 3 or 4 people. So the numbers have switched. So we are recruiting. I see it pendulum kind of proverbial pendulum swinging back. The problem is we don't want to swing back too far, because then we're in the same situation, need to find right in the middle somewhere. And we've had to reimagine and redesign what this job is to try and attract more people, and it's starting to happen. So, but if you have, you know, kids and grandkids, a lot of things that we do now is, I don't, if you guys ever have Rotary or auctions or things like that, we give canine ride-alongs away, we give police car ride-alongs away to try and get people. What we find is people buy those things and give them to their kids or give them to other people. So we do that. So if you ever have that, call me and I'll donate that kind of stuff. And they make a lot of money. I was just at, you guys have Lucky Dog out here. They had an event last weekend with 500 people down at Day Island, the event center down there. They had 500 people there, and I brought my newest canine dog, 10 months old, Coda, and a black German Shepherd, and let him work the crowd. And we sold a canine ride along for $2,000. And so that $2,000 went to the Lucky Dogs. And then plus we got somebody that wants to come out ride with us. So we're kind of doing those things. So please give me a call if you ever want a ride along or a canine dog to show up, or a canine ride along.
Two questions, one short one and one other one. If a kid is right out of college with a criminal justice degree, what is the turnaround time to be hired? Do all the testing and everything. And then the second part is, you mentioned the school liaison program. We had a very solid SRO program out here. It went away for a variety of reasons. We are very interested in reinstituting the SRO program. So just my question is, how does the staffing impact the ability to provide?
Well, that's it. Same with the university place. Couple school districts got rid of the SROs. 2 reasons. One, you know, we ended COVID, and one, it just wasn't cool to have police on campus anymore because it frightened 2 or 3 students. So they got rid of us. And now the districts that did that are wanting to come back and reinstitute. And I have to unfortunately say, well, you're going to need to stand in line. So as soon as staffing, we'd love to have one in every school district, but our staffing right now is not allowing it. But our numbers are going up. One of the good things is right now, between brand new hires, oral boards, the academy, and people in training, I have 28 people in the process that by December or January next year will be on the road. And so our numbers are hopefully will take a big jump as long as the retirements seem to have leveled off. To answer your other question, that was the SR one. Your other one was the college degree. If you come out of college with a BA in criminal justice and you've not had a job, besides that, we're going to tell you to go get some life experience or go work for a couple of years. This isn't the type of job. This is not your first job. I mean, we have people 4, 8 years of military that are coming in, and we have people that have had jobs since they're 16 and went to college. But if you are just a kid that was lucky enough to go to school, get a BA in criminal justice. Most of those people don't want to come work for us anyways, or go in the other direction. They want to, you know, they become social workers and other things, but we're going to want you to get some life experience. So I had a job since I was 15 years old. And when I got hired at 21 years old on the department, I had 5 years of work experience under me and had gone to school. And so that helped me at that age, is just having jobs all the time. So we want people with life experience, good and bad. You know, if you're too squeaky clean and you're straight out of college and you haven't had a chance to get yourself in trouble, you need to go out. See what the next couple of years will do for you. Yeah.
Maybe it could be also explain legislation called juvenile access attorneys.
Right. So right now with juvenile crime, we used to have a whole 5-person juvenile unit where if you caught a juvenile, you would go in and you would talk to them and interview them, read them their rights, ask them if they want their parents. Well, we can't even do that anymore. At this point, you don't interview juveniles. They go to the facility and they talk to attorneys before we even get to interview them, and the attorneys, we just stop. So so you have to have a case against a juvenile put together. The old days, you know, one of them would break and confess and give you all the information, but that's no good anymore. You can't do that. So that's taken a big tool away from us. And the trend across the country in juvenile facilities is to not hold kids in incarceration and not hold them, I don't want to say accountable, but alternative programs. So what happens is when you have a justice system like that, whose goal is to not keep them incarcerated or hold them accountable, and we're not allowed to talk to them, you just have these kids that are just running amok. Yeah. And they're not held accountable. They're not held accountable at home. I know you at the schools probably deal with it all the time. They're not held accountable there. There's no fear. What I'm seeing with our juveniles, like the riot we had at Raymond Hall, there's no fear of adults. There's no fear of the uniform. There's no fear of anything at all anymore, because there's no ramifications on the back end from when they were little. And so is that what you're, yeah. So there's no consequences. And that's not by policy that the chief and I are doing. That's by mandated state legislation that we can't do, or we're violating their rights. And there's a whole group of adults and attorneys and people in our system that make sure it goes that way. Yeah.
Hi, by the way, Deputy Benson really comes up with just. As you reported in the paper this morning, the oversight, would you talk a little bit more?
Did that hit the paper today? I saw it was online. Well, right now, if you look, there's a certain council member and council people that want civilian oversight. We have civilian oversight, but what they want is spend $1.5 million to hire people that would sit in on our interviews and would sit in and have subpoena power and be like civilian cops against the police department. My question is, give me one time in 4 years our department's done anything wrong where you'd activate this group that you're going to spend $1.5 million on. And right now we already have PC Fit, which is an outside investigative team besides an agency if they get involved in a shooting. So if Gig Harbor gets involved in the shooting, they don't investigate it, we do. If we get involved in the shooting out here, part of Gig Harbor, the other people would look at it. And that's overseen already by many ways. The Attorney General's already built this new team that's almost up and running. We're working with them. They're going to have 20 people that are going to investigate police agencies. The AG's office is going to do that. We also have the outside investigative agencies already doing it. We also have the Ethics Commission. If somebody were to make a complaint, they would come investigate. And so we have all these other people already. We spend more time investigating ourselves and each other and giving stuff to the state already. If you get another layer like that, it's just going to make less people want to do this job. And when certain elected officials appoint that group, and you see the type of people they want to appoint, it's really going to make it less, you know, and I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody on what it would be, but it would be an oversight committee with too much power. And Seattle, which caused all this, is under a decree, so they don't even have to do it. So Seattle started a lot of this. Is that department is kind of more on their own than the rest of us. And so we don't need another layer of oversight. We have plenty of oversight. We have plenty of internal reasons. We have an independent prosecutor. We have an AG. We have everybody that can take a look at it. So I'm against them. Our guilds and unions are against them. But for lack of a better term, I think some politicians want to placate their constituents and try and make us look like we're big problems like you see in Baltimore and you see in Chicago and New York. That's not the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Like I said, give me a time in the last 4 or 5 years where there's been one incident where this team would be activated. There isn't any. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Every year there's a stronger and stronger desire to remove qualified immunity.
Right.
Well, if that happens,
We're done.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. 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 I had, my guild said we'd lose half our people the next day. If half our department would resign immediately if we didn't have their backs and lost qualified immunity, and people could sue them left and right and for doing everything right that they're trained to do. And so that would be an end of it. But be careful with, be aware they want that, because remember the trend was we don't need police. Let's eliminate half the Seattle Police Department. Look how well that worked for them up there, right? Okay, so you eliminate half your police department and let's defund the police. And now the same people are jumping up and down trying to ask the chief up there, why can't you do anything about crime? Well, you took 300 of my people, you know, and they quit. If what the chief says happens, it'll be lawlessness. No, thanks for having me. I'm sorry it took me a while to get out here, but your last meeting I was in DC, and I think the meeting before that, yeah. Well, we're not sure if it's going to work, because what we're trying to do is everybody's trying to do their own county ordinances and city ordinances, which we're doing. And I know our prosecutor is pro, we need these laws and tools. If not, we just can't hold anybody accountable. We used to have drug court here. Well, everybody's in drug court, just quit coming to drug court, and they're just back out committing felonies because the drugs are legal. You know, when you and we can't arrest people for drug usage. We can't arrest people for drug dealing at a certain level. And if you're making them all misdemeanors, my narcotics unit was at 11 or 12, and now I'm down to 3. And all we do is liaison with the feds, because no matter what kind of case we make, nobody's getting charged and we can't arrest. And the state has really, they got back in session, and the new laws take effect July 1st. So when those new laws take effect July 1st, we'll see. And on top of city ordinances and the county ordinances, we'll see. We're talking about Blake. And so July 1st is when it's supposedly to happen, is when it's actually be implemented. August 14th. Well, I can just, if you look at the numbers in my facility, over 85% are mental health and addicted, and 93% are felons. And
Didn't get there because they were old.
No.
This might have happened now.
Raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. We've got several people.
So what happens, you don't go to jail because you're homeless. You don't go to jail because you're addicted to drugs. You go to jail because you smash the window in the department store and cause $10,000 of damage to steal $300 worth of stuff. or breaking into cars. If you go by the camps, you'll see a lot of bicycles and grocery carts, and they don't give those things away. And so you're in jail because you committed crimes. You're not in jail anymore because you had drugs on you. Those days are gone. Or we'll see what happens in August, what the tools, and if we have the room to keep them, and what are the courts going to do with it on the back end. There's a lot to be determined on, and the next year will tell a lot.
Curious, how concentrated is crime in terms of people? That is, you have a small core of people who are repeat offenders, and that you get a large proportion of the crimes, or is it more dispersed?
It's a small amount of people committing majority of the crimes. I mean, I think, well, here's what we're going to do. And one of the things that we're doing in August and around that date that we were talking about is we're compiling a list of the top 100 criminals, habitual criminals in Pierce County. And we've got 20 from drug court that haven't come back, that drug courts know they're out committing crimes. The FBI, the DOJ is involved with us. Every agency in Pierce County is going to be involved, all the task force. And we're going to have 100 of the most prolific criminals that we believe are causing us the most grief. And we're going to spend 2 weeks trying to round them all up. And when we do that in August, we want to see what happens. If we catch them, hold them, work with the prosecutors and the judge to say, these are the most prolific criminals. They're already going to have warrants. They've already not shown up, and we know they're out committing crime. Let's round those 100 up and see what happens over the next month. See if we can make a little bit of a dent. We call it the top 100. And we're compiling the list now. What happened last year when we tried the same thing, we never were able to go out to the media with it, because the night we kicked it off, 10 o'clock at night, we have the top 100 set. We had a meeting at TPD, multiple agencies, went out, arrested 4 or 5. 7 o'clock the next morning is when my deputy, Dom Claudia, got shot and killed, and Rich Scaniff was shot. And so that decimated our SWAT team, and we stopped it right there, because just manpower and patrol, and after having a couple of people shot, we stopped it. We're picking it back up again this August. So we'll be doing that this August. We're not going to go out to the media with that until we're 2 weeks into it. And then what we're going to do after we catch everybody we can, then we'll put the rest of the people in the media and offer Crime Stoppers rewards for their whereabouts, and let people help us with tips.
Thank you. Sheriff Troy, thanks for coming out. You talked a bit about the ongoing being frontline and dealing with all these problems. Can you talk about how the training has changed? Talk about the people through the academy take longer to get into the academy.
Well, there's one academy, and it's kind of odd, because here's another oversight body. The police academy, where we went and learned to be police officers, pro police, is now somewhat anti-police. They can pull people's certificates. They do reviews of cases. That's been set to the same people that teach us to discipline us. And what I tell all my people when they go to the academy, they do a lot of critical race theory stuff up there now. You don't have to run around tracks. They've taken the physical part out of it all. And they do a whole bunch of things that we might not agree with, that law enforcement needs training in, as to the extent they do. So I just tell my guys and girls when they go up there, I said, just keep your heads down, be quiet. And when you get back, we'll teach you how to do it right. And they come back up to me. They're like, yeah, no kidding. It's changed a lot since when we were up there. And so we have that training, and then we have our own in-house training, but there's so much new stuff. I mean, for instance, I just went through, for my second time training, we all carry Narcan, and the first start, you'd find somebody on a fentanyl drug overdose, and somebody gave him Narcan and brought him back. It was like, oh, you saved his life. Now it's just so much. We've had people that have done it 3 times in a year, and we have the same people we've saved twice. That we have, everybody has Narcan, and we just use it as a regular tool. So we have to train on that. And then with the new laws that are coming out, we have to train our people now what they can't do, what they've been able to do for 20 years, and now they can't. And so we have a lot of that. And our our tools are being taken away from us. So we do a lot of training because so much stuff is changing so dynamically. And so we train a lot. We train to keep our people safe. You know, train in firearms. There's a lot of training that goes on.
Okay, thank you. There was an online question about the average age of your recruits.
Right now, our average age of our recruits is, we do occasionally get 21, 22-year-olds in, but appears to be about 24 or 25 years old. People that have gone through college, had a career, wanted to make a career change, either that or did a 4-year stint in the military or 8-year stint in the military and decided to switch over, which is really good for us because we do a lot of recruiting out of JBLM. You know, we have a military base in our backyard. We have naval, we have Trident, and that's really good for recruiting. One of the things that kind of got us is we recruited a lot, and then the laws went a little sideways here and you couldn't really do police work. So I lost probably 10 people, hang on, that left and went back to Texas, Wyoming, because they were military, so they don't have family ties out here. They love the area. They didn't like what this job turned into. So they've gone back to their home states to do law enforcement, where you can still do the things we used to do here.
And you mentioned that there's a lot of contact going on. When we go to the mall, or we go to a shopping center or what have you, even the local grocery store now, are there things beyond locking your car that you would recommend that we tell ourselves, tell our wives, tell our kids to do to try to reduce the opportunities for that?
Don't leave anything visible in your car, just so they don't break into it, because they'll bust the window out to steal $3. But as far as cars getting stolen, over 75% of the cars that are getting stolen are either Hyundais or Kias. Those two cars are the majority of cars getting stolen, because online you have the Kia boys and all these people that videotape themselves stealing cars and posting them online. And you just need a USB jump stick. And yeah, you just get a USB jump stick, just like you put in your computer, is how the keyholes in those were manufactured. And you can just put a USB jump stick in and start those cars. And there's no software or anything that needs to be on them. It's just the actual tool that'll make that work. And they show you how to do it online, and then people go out and post pictures of themselves stealing them online, erasing them, and then you'll get them back with scratches in the paint, you know, Kia boys and all this and that. And we try not to, the more we put that out there, it perpetuates itself, and the more they'll go show off and do it. So we don't really like to advertise that, because they'll go out and try and outdo each other. But yeah, Kias and Hyundai, yeah. Now, to be fair, if you're a Kia or Hyundai dealer, they've corrected that problem in the last couple of years models. But the older ones, there's no fix.
First up, thank you. Quick question for you though. Is you watch the news, you see space flight in June. Here's people I learned from it. And you know, you don't hear meetings talk about
It's all gangs, and we know the top gangs, and it's all gang affiliated, but the media won't use the word gang anymore. It's a racist term. We're not supposed to use the word gang anymore. We call them groups of people. And but the word gang, they call themselves gang and gang members. And if you saw all the videos online in Raymond Hall, they're all throwing up their gang signs and scratched all their gang markings all over the place when that happened. But as far as the media goes, you won't hear them say Crips, Bloods, gangs, or these kids were part of a gang, but they are. And a lot of the stuff is still retaliatory, just like it was before, you know, let's go shoot up that neighborhood. Well, they shot up our neighborhood, so we're gonna go shoot up their neighborhood. It's really not any more complicated than that, unfortunately. Right.
How are they helping you, hurting you, or saying, how do you work with them effectively to keep your messages out?
Well, anybody follow us on our Facebook page, if not follow us, you'll see some really cool videos, because when they implemented body cams, when we started them, we use those now to do weekly segments of what's going on out there with body cam video. And we put some pretty interesting segments together, and we put our videos up for the media to use. At first, they weren't using them, but then they started using them. Now they're using them every night. We see our video stuff online. We're selling our own stories. We have more followers on our Facebook page than all the media organizations combined. The only two people higher than the Pierce County Sheriff's Department social media is the Seahawks and the Mariners. Other than that, I don't know about the hockey team. Other than that, we're number 3, and it's huge for recruiting. And you know, we get 25 to 30,000 interactions or views on every single video we put out. Some hit 500,000 because they kind of go viral. So we are really good at doing that. We started doing that. My person who took my spot is named Darren Moss. He's a Coug. He played football over, I say the Coug shirt back there, played football over there for 2 or 3 years. And then he was Butch for a year. And so, so he's now my media guy, and it's really great for recruiting. We have people that see our stuff all over and come apply for us. And so we're really proactive with the social media stuff to get it out there and let everybody know what's really going on. What that has done, body cams, our internal affairs unit used to be swamped, 4 or 5 people. Now I'm about ready to pull somebody out, because we've lost about 60% of our business because the false claims and the false lies aren't coming in. And when somebody makes an accusation, we go back and look at the body cam video and say, yep, that's not what happened. And so they've been really good to us. We love having body cams, and we love sharing it with the public. And now the news media is picking up on it. You know, the media was all the defund the police and everything for a while. They're coming back around too. I think you'll see, if you saw the thing we had on I-5 with the stolen car, and the guy ran away and left his car and girlfriend in the car, and he left his car and his girlfriend, and the grass caught on fire and his car caught on fire, and our deputies pulled her out, and another one chased him down the road and caught him. I mean, even the TV show Cops calls us and wants to come use our footage. And we're like, so it's really showing that we're still doing police work. It's showing that we're engaged with the public, and we produce a lot of that ourselves and put it out there. So it's been a great tool. They're all the ones that we deal with are all homegrown. You know, it used to be a lot of the gangs when it first started were by neighborhoods and race. You'd have Asian gangs, you'd have black gangs, you'd have white gangs, you'd have gangs, and then they kind of became by neighborhoods and more hybrid. And now they're just so nomadic. It's just whichever one you want to choose and ride around with. And so there's no real set area for them. It's not anything when it first started, it'd be turf oriented, or when they were doing rock cocaine, that type of way oriented. That's kind of gone. They're all very mobile and team up. And most of the gang members that we're finding are 15, 16, 17 years old, were their parents who are now 40 that were in gangs that we locked up way back then for shooting and killing people. And now we're getting a second generation run through. That's what's happening. So
Thank you very much.
that's part of it. You had a question, didn't you? You good?
Yeah, we've run out of time.
Okay.
So,
All right.
thanks for having you guys. Will have to go home if you have more questions. Well, thank you very much for a very interesting program, and I'm sure that if there's still questions, perhaps Sheriff Troyer will stick around after the meeting and answer them. But this is the time when we go around. Oh, this is the time when we go around the room and find out what's going on. And I'll tell you what. Let's start with Chief Busey, and yeah, if you come to the front, then the people online will be able to.
Just Sheriff, thanks very much. You covered a lot of ground that I'll be probably covering on more of a hyper local level on June 29th, I think, in this room. Yeah, June 20th. Thanks, Kurt. And the only other thing that I'll mention is that this is the first year that Gig Harbor has banned fireworks sales and use in our city limits. And also the county has restricted their use, I think, to just July 4th. So a lot of change there. We're going to be in the educational mode, right? Everybody's probably going to be calling because their neighbors doing sparklers in the driveway. We'll do our best to address that, but we'll take an educational approach and not a very strong enforcement approach on that for the first year or two, so we can get people comfortable with those laws. So that's the straight scoop on that, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. And we have Dan Gregory from the school district here. So Dan, can you give us an update on what's happening at Peninsula School District?
Thank you, John, and thank you again, Sheriff Troyer, and for all the cooperation out here that we have with law enforcement, with both Gig Harbor PD and Pierce County Sheriffs. We are very fortunate, and we still, I'll reiterate, we are very interested in reinstituting our SRO program. We're wrapping up the school year. Next Tuesday, I'm sorry, I better not let them out a day early. Next Wednesday is the last day of school. It is graduation season. Peninsula High School will graduate from the Tacoma Dome at noon. Gig Harbor on Saturday. I believe Gig Harbor's at 2:30 or 3. Two of my favorites, however, are Henderson Bay will be tomorrow night at Zamel Park, which is really a great ceremony. Henderson Bay is graduating a large number of students this year for them, probably close to 30 graduates. And then this afternoon out at the Vaughn Community Center is our Community Transition Program graduation. If you don't know about our Community Transition Program, those are 18 to 21-year-old, more profoundly disabled students who learn to live and work within the community. And that's just a wonderful ceremony for those students who are more profoundly disabled, and the staff love them and they do a wonderful job. So we're looking forward to those graduations, and we're looking forward to the summer as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Online, we have Brittany Wickens from Penn Light. And Brittany, would you like to give us an update?
Hi, yes, thank you so much. As we are rolling into summer, we're having a kind of a cool June here, but as we know, the summers like to heat up. And so I would encourage anyone looking to upgrade their homes with an AC unit or HVAC to please visit our website. We do have a rebate and preferred vendors on our site. Some of them will even deduct the rebate from the install process. So it's really easy for members. So go ahead and check that out. It's under our Energy Services tab at penlight.org.
Okay, thank you. And Miriam, how about a chamber update?
Okay, everybody's a lot taller. So for our luncheon in July, we're selecting to do a give back day rather than hosting a luncheon and have a speaker in. So we're going to be helping the Downtown Waterfront Alliance at the Farmers Market. And so if you are interested in helping us serve them, this coming, I think it's going to be July 6th. So that Thursday, if you have an interest in helping us with helping vendors set up or helping them tear down, or have a business and would like to be in the booth with us during the day, please let our office know. We'd love to have you. And again, thank you, Ed, for being here. We appreciate your time and everything you're doing for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Next, we have Kurt Grimmer with Penn Met Parks. Chief, did you want to come up? Okay.
Thank you. Hey, Ed, thank you for being here. That was really a great presentation. Appreciate it. So what's happening at Penn Met Parks? Well, it's summertime now, so there's all kinds of activities that have been planned for the summer at Penn Met Parks. Activities for adults, teens, and children. But what's coming up a week from Saturday is a big Fleetwood Mac concert at the Outdoor Amphitheater at Zamel Homestead Park. We're going to have on the big screen their historic MTV concert celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Rumors album. We're going to have food trucks and games for kids. So it's free. Come on out and enjoy it. It's going to be a blast. And then what's going to be happening here next week is we have Leslie Main will be here. She's the founder of the Permission to Start Dreaming Foundation. And she's going to be sharing with us how they have expanded their entire programming. They're now serving not just people that have served in the military, but also their spouses, first responders, and their spouses as well. And joining her is going to be Steve Easton, who's their new executive director. He's a retired police officer out of Texas. So he has some fascinating stories to share about his experience there. And then the week after that will be Chief Kelly Busey. Thank you all. See you next week.
Thanks, Kurt. Last chance, Steve. Add any,
Just a couple things for PennMed as well. Again, thank you, Sheriff Troyer. June 26th and 27th, we're having community meetings. The 27th is for the, or excuse me, the 26th is for the dedicated space for seniors. And the 27th is for the feasibility study for aquatics. So again, just an opportunity for community input for those two feasibility studies. So that's all I have. Thanks.
okay, well, thank you again for being here, and we'll see you all next week.